Hello, and it is Wednesday. I remember it, so you don't have to. Hey, I did a parody of another YouTuber as my intro. How epic was that, guys? Welcome back. Don't worry, it's not Nostalgia Critic. It's me, Matt. Hello. We're back in Velocity Lake, the theme park I'm building in Planet Coaster and uploading a weekly series of the construction of. That was a good planned out sentence. I love how that's often my intro. I say, "Oh, Velocity Lake, welcome back," and then I always get it grammatically incorrect. I probably should write down, like, what are you trying to say? And I'm going to write it down and make it coherent, and then you can just read it. But then it would take me a long time because my entire Planet Coaster commentaries are incoherent and rambly and cover no real focal point. Welcome, all new viewers who are, now that is your introduction to this channel. Maybe I should introduce the thesis of this video real quick. Following on from the last 52 episodes, we're going to be working on some of the car park infrastructure of Velocity Lake. We've been working on this little backstage area now for the past 3 episodes or so. You know, we've been working on warehouses, bridges, car parks. We're going to continue building car parks. So this is going to be the staff car park. I realize that we don't really have that much parking space available for people who work at Velocity Lake, so we can address this episode with this little car park here. It's only accessible to staff via the staff road that kind of forks off the road that goes into the entrance of the main car park that we built not too long ago. It's nothing really that special. It's just a big tarmac area, which I guess does describe car parks now I say it out loud, but it's just a big tarmac area. No real theming going into it. Like the staff area, is not... Like, I work at a hospital, and the staff car park is so much worse than the public car parks. For one, the spaces are really, really small. Like, they're ridiculously small. It's like I believe in the US, in your car parks, you have such a thing called a compact parking space, which is a parking space where it's quite small. We don't really have those sorts of things. I don't think I've ever seen a compact space in the UK because I think in the UK, our roads are typically smaller than in America and we drive smaller cars. Like, I don't know anyone that owns a pickup truck, for example, in the UK. And I very rarely see pickup trucks as a thing, and like muscle cars, which are quite big as well, aren't really a thing here. So we generally have smaller cars, so we don't really need compact spaces. But it'd be like every single space in the staff car park is like a compact space. Like, I have a tiny little Vauxhall Corsa, and it's I can't open the door fully. Like, I'm assuming this is like all cars, right? The car door has like 2 opening points. Like, it will swing open once and you kind of breathe in, you can get out, or you open it again. You know, like a bit like a DS hinge, like a Nintendo DS hinge. It has 2 locking points as you open it. Does any of this make sense? Doesn't matter. So you can't even open your door to the first locking point is what I mean. You open it and you kind of have to hold it open. I kind of wrap my fingers around the door, open it, and then when it hits the car next to me, it doesn't hit the car next to me. My hand sort of acts as a nice sandwich between my car door and the body of the car, and they have to squeeze out through the little gap, and it's tiny, and you got to fold your mirrors in. That is what you have to do. And it's meant that, like, I have to reverse into these spaces, and it means that when I'm actually in a normal car park, which I don't park because I don't get out very much, right? I really just drive to work, and then I don't really drive my car at the weekends. So when I'm driving in, when I'm trying to park in a normal car parking space, I'm so used to parking at work that I'll often like park right up against the line on one side, and then be like have like 3 feet of space on the other side of the car because I'm like, oh yeah, the lines aren't right next to each other. There's like actual space here, so then I have to pull forward, reverse back. It's a real nightmare. Anyway, there was a point to that massive tangent I just made in that the staff car parks generally not quite as nice as the public car parks, right? And that's what I meant to say in that. In the hospital where I work at, that's the staff car park. That's not the case for the public car park, right? They have normal sized spaces. I guess it makes sense because the staff, we just want as many spaces as possible, whereas patients, they kind of need the space to maneuver, especially, helping old ones out the car and stuff like that. You need the extra space. So that brings me to this is my thesis, my muse for this car park. I'm like, well, we got the nice, well-designed the visitors car park, but the staff car park, they can just have anything. Just stick as many spaces as you can in a small area. They can maneuver the small spaces because they work here every day. They'll get used to navigating the small area inside the car park, and that just be how it be. And that's why I've made an awful car park. I've now realized that, basically I'm providing explanation as to why this car park is rubbish. But I feel like it's rubbish by design. if that means anything. I mean, what else are we going to be building in this episode? That's the main car park. I think we do build another staff car park in this episode, because although this is pretty good size, it's still not really enough considering the size of Velocity Lake. I mean, I guess we do have bus links, and of course we have that gigantically complex monorail system, so some staff members might choose to get the train into work because it pulls up right there. That monorail, it connects to St Pancras. There's you got the Eurostar line, you got your domestic lines, and then you got the Velocity Lake line. Like, it's a 3 things of St Pancras International that everyone knows and is definitely a real thing. Someone in the comments is probably going to make a joke about Hogwarts, but that's King's Cross. So probably no one's going to mention that. Whatever. Here's the other staff car park. And we probably should have another staff car park. Here it is. Much, much smaller because we had much less space to work with. This would just be like the workers who work specifically in that office, which again is not that many spaces considering the size of that office building. So maybe like executives could park in these spaces. I don't know. Haven't got any handicap spaces in here either. I probably should have done that. Although, I shouldn't say handicapped. Someone mentioned the last episode I uploaded at least, when I was building the car park, and I was referring to the the wheelchair access spaces as handicapped, and apparently that's an offensive thing to call them. I didn't mean to cause any offense if anyone was offended by my use of the word handicap when describing those spaces. It was the spaces with maximum accessibility on either side of the space to facilitate easy exit and entry of a car for someone who has crutches or a wheelchair, or any other. Not all disabilities are visible. Any other kind of disability that means they can't exit the car quite so easily. That's kind of what I meant. I didn't mean to cause offense by using the incorrect terminology, so I apologize for that. So yes, I didn't build any spaces like that in that little car park there. And that's a little overview of the whole parking infrastructure. In fact, I think that's pretty much it. Just a few I's to cross, T's to dot. That was the right way around. I'm going to carry on. Just like, lamp posts, things of that nature. What else do we... I'm just going to zoom out of the video. Oh my goodness, I've been talking for so long. I did spend ages talking about my staff car park. I was thinking we're only 3 minutes into the video. What are we going to be doing for this episode? But I think we've pretty much done it. It's just literally just finishing it off. As I've said, this little sort of mini series in which we work on warehouse infrastructure and stuff like that, because everything is so repetitive, and I don't really know how to speed it up any faster without the footage just being nauseating to watch. I'm let's just make the episodes smaller so they're easier to digest and slightly less boring, which means I'm so used to having to drag out every single topic I start, because I'm this episode I build a bin and it's 50 minutes long. So let's all go down to Crazy Town and just talk about guinea pigs and just go on massive tangents. Now I'm it's only a 10-minute episode, so I'll go on my first little ramble, and that's it. That's the episode. So it's weird, strange times all round. Again, I wasn't looking at the screen. I think I added some cars to the accessible spaces there, so done that. Jobs are done, and then we're going to light it up. So I generally like to just switch over to nighttime view just to make sure I've got adequate lighting, and I did see that those bridges I built do have excessive lamp posts. The reason for that is because, and it was intentional, I didn't want to have, even when I placed all those lamp posts, I knew I'd be deleting some. It's because I built one very narrow section of the bridge and then just cloned it across, and when I built that narrow section of bridge, I placed a lamppost there. I thought, when we're cloning it, those lampposts are going to be way too close, but it means that I could just delete them rather than having to carefully place them all in the exact same place, if that makes sense. All those lampposts are placed in the exact same spot relative to the bit of bridge they're attached to, because it's all part of the same cloned bridge. Oh, by the way, I think I mentioned last episode actually, so whoops. But I mentioned that I was going to be covering up that piece of track that sticks out of the path of that bridge. That's what I was doing there. And hey, we're building a roller coaster. What? Surprise twist, eh? We're building a roller coaster in this episode. Except not really. I mean, we kind of are, technically, because we are building one on screen. But it ain't here to stay. And some of you may be confused by this, because I have been saying that the next roller coaster of this park will be a B&M invert. And that is the case. It's just not this B&M invert. You see, I wanted to build an inverted ride in this park. That was just my thing I set out to do. So then I was let's just start building and see how things go. And that's what I did. I didn't end up really liking how this roller coaster came out, but I did get kind of a fair way through the build, and I did do 4-meter smoothings. It took ages, so I wanted to show it, if nothing else, to validate all the work I put into it. But it's kind of, I'm just putting this here as a sort of, a lot of people liked the Lost Coasters of Velocity Lake episode, so this is kind of another thing. This is what could have been. And this is much grander in scale to the B&M invert I actually went with. In the end, I went with a B&M family invert. Like, there aren't many, but there are a couple in the real world, and I went with one of those. So you might be disappointed by the fact it's not a big epic scale roller coaster, but you know, I actually really liked it. It's actually one of my favorite rides, even though it's super tame. Just the general aesthetic of it, the theming, the area around it, the color scheme, it all just really came together, and it is one of my favorite rides of this park. So I really am excited for you guys to see it, even though it's not going to be as epic as the Industrial Revolution or the RMC coasters were and are, hopefully. I still think it's pretty nice. So that's what you got to look forward to here, but I thought I'd show a quick POV. I mean, I haven't finished all the terrain, right? So the camera is getting unrealistically close to the ground here. I did want it to be like at least when I was designing this one, this is what I ended up going with for the final B&M invert that will live in this part of the park, but I was taking some heavy inspiration from my favourite B&M invert, and indeed favourite roller coaster, which is of course Nemesis at Alton Towers. You've got to be very clear you mean the Alton Towers Nemesis, because I mean, everyone, when you say my favourite roller coaster is Nemesis, everyone will know you mean the Alton Towers one, because if you've been on the Thorpe Park one, it's a fine ride. It just has the unfortunate spot of being called Nemesis, and it will just, nothing can live up to the Nemesis at Alton Towers. But yeah, that ride is a terrain coaster. It's a B&M invert, and I think inverted coasters make the best kind of terrain coasters, because your feet and your body is the thing that's coming really, really close to the ground. Like normally terrain coasters, it's the train, right? The track is close to the ground. So, having it the other way around, you're the one that's getting in like really, really close contact with the ground. It's a really cool idea for an inverted ride. And there are a few around the world. Like, is it Black Mamba? It's really heavily themed. I'd really like to go on it sometime. Looks like it would be that sort of thing. It's all, lots of leg choppers, that sort of thing. So I thought, inverted coasters really lend themselves well. That's why I was doing lots of terrain terraforming, but it's all gone now. It's all over. Hope you enjoyed that alternate history thing that you just watched, whatever that was. End screen, I guess you guys can read, so you can see, but the left-hand side is a link to the full Velocity Lake playlist. Right-hand side was a video chosen for you by your YouTube viewing habits. And that's it.